Hey everyone, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Durling. Thank you for watching. This is a chart rewind episode. I'm going back 50 years for the top 200 albums on the Billboard chart on this date back in 1975. So I'm doing this one myself. These ones are long episodes, so the quickest way to do it is just if it's me doing it. So we're going to get started here in a second. Like all of these charts, very eclectic, all over the board as far as genres. And when we first get started here, there's going to be some names that I barely recognize or don't recognize at all. But that's kind of what makes it fun. And as always, in the case of something I actually own, I'll show it off and talk about it for a bit. So let's get started. At number 200 is the band Babe Ruth and their album Stealin' Home. It's down from 169. This group didn't really catch on in the States. They were a British blues rock group, lead singer named Jenny Han. I know that at one point Bernie Marsden was the guitar player in this band. I'm not sure if it's this album or not. The most that I know about this group is because my longtime co-host Matt Phillips, his neighbor Glenn, huge music buff, and he's into all of these obscure 60s, 70s rock bands. He's a huge fan of this band, Babe Ruth, so he could tell you anything you needed to know about them. New this week at number 199, various artists. Dr. Demento's Delights. Now, Dr. Demento was a radio host, a DJ. He liked to play novelty records, comedy records. I know that he had a lot to do with Weird Al getting started in his career. So this must be a collection of wacky songs. It's new this week. At number 198, this is an album that had incredible staying power on the charts. It's the album that famously kept Led Zeppelin 4 out of the top spot, Carole King's Tapestry. In its 243rd week in the chart, this week it's down to 198. Not sure, but it's probably the last week in the chart for this one. Number 197, got the German band Sparks, a group I honestly don't know that much about. I know that they're a couple of brothers. The album's called Indiscreet, new at 197. Now, at 196, we have an album I do have, and I do want to talk about it and shed some light on it. Unfortunately, didn't do well. It only peaked at 79. Last week, it was at 130, and this week it's down to 196, so it's probably on its way out of the chart. But it's Warner Brothers Presents Montrose. Now, it makes it sound like a debut album. Obviously, it's not. Anybody that knows Montrose knows what the debut album is. But this is the third Montrose album. What I've got here is the Rock Candy remastered version. Very cool cover, made to look like a movie poster. And this is, of course, after Sammy Hagar left. So the lead singer on this album is a guy named Bob James, who sadly passed away a few years ago. This is a really good album, and I didn't hear it for many, many years. But if you like the first, well, opinions are mixed on the Paper Money album, but if you really like the first Montrose album, if Sammy was on vocals on this, it would seem more like the natural follow-up. It's a good 70s hard rock album. I highly recommend checking it out. At number 195, this is a group I don't know about. Jimmy James and the Vagabonds, You Don't Stand a Chance If You Can't Dance. Not familiar. New this week. At number 194, Faith, Hope, and Charity, and a self-titled album. I don't know if this is a trio. Again, I'm not sure. These early entries in the chart. Only peaked at number 100, spending 14 weeks on the chart. New at number 193, a guy that was a country superstar, but he had a lot of pop crossover appeal. Ronnie Milsap, his album Night Things, is new this week. At number 192, Judy Collins and her album Judith. This week it's down from 179 to 192. It peaked at number 17. At number 191, we've got Kool and the Gang, a band that would gain more mainstream success starting in the very late 70s and through most of the 80s. Their album Spirit of the Boogie peaked at 48. This week it is down, or it's up from 193 to 191. So I guess it would peak at 48. At number 190, when you're crate digging, you see some names over and over again, and I see this a lot. The South Soul Orchestra, self-titled. It's new this week, 190. At number 189, second week in the chart, it's up 10 this week. Prelude is the name of the group, and it's the album's called Owl Creek Incident. Now, Prelude, I know, had a hit with a version. If this is the same group called Prelude, I know they had a hit with a version of Neil Young's After the Gold Rush. That is about all I know. At number 188, it's up from 197, the R&B band Tavares and the song In the City. Tavares, if I'm not mistaken, that's the group. No, wait. I don't know what their song was. I know they had one really big song. At number 187, Shirley Bassey. Good, Bad, but Beautiful. That's brand new this week. At number 186, an album that peaked all the way up to number 6, James Taylor, of course, big star of the 70s. His album, Gorilla. Big drop this week, 82 down to 186. Famous singer-songwriter. A lot of people have done his songs. I know he's got a cult following. Tom Waits and his album Nighthawks at the Diner is brand new this week at 185. At 184, great album. Peaked at number 5. Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare. Technically his first solo album. I actually don't make that distinction. They're all Alice Cooper albums to me. But this album peaked at 5 this week. It's down from 91 to 184. At number 183, the Allman Brothers Band with Ida Peach. This week it is up from 185 to 183. Not a very big jump, but it says it peaked at 4 and it's been in the charts for 48 weeks, so I'm assuming it's climbing back up this week. At number 182, the embattled duo, Daryl Hall and John Oates. This is their self-titled album, and this is the one where this is the silver album cover. If you know, you know. This week it's down from 145 to 182. At number 181, Janice Ian, another singer-songwriter, her album Stars. Peaked at 83 this week. It's down 177 to 181. Number 180, various artists, History of British Rock, Volume 3. In its second week in the chart, it's up 10 notches. Number 179, another album that's been in the chart for 2 weeks, The Undisputed Truth, and the album's called Higher Than High. It's at 179. Number 178, Les McCann. I recognize the name, but I don't know why. Hustle to Survive climbs up from 189 to 178 this week. Got a lot of second weeks in the charts here. The band Hot Chocolate with a self-titled album. It's not their debut, I know that. This week it's up from 188. Number 176, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, country rock band. Their album Dream drops from 113 down to 176. One of the biggest names in reggae and kind of just making inroads, I think. Bob Marley and the Wailers and Catch a Fire. It's holding this week at 175, fourth week in the chart. It's also early days for ABBA for their sort of chart nomination in North America. So their self-titled album is at 174. It's up from 178. Number 173, the blues rock band Savoy Brown. I know that a lot of the members of Foghat came from Savoy Brown. The album is called Wire Fire, and it's up from 184 to 173. At number 172, the man that brought you The Hustle, Van McCoy and the Disco Kid, peaked at 80, and that's where it drops from this week, so 80 down to 172. Grateful Dead are at 171 this week with Blues for Allah. That's down from 69. Blue Magic is the group name. The album's called 13 Blue Magic Lane. I am not familiar. This week it's down 144 to 170 in its ninth week. Peaked at number 50. 169, Roxy Music. It's a debut. The album is called Siren. First Canadian we've discovered in this chart, Gino Vanelli with Storm at Sunup. This week it's from climbing from 172 to 168. The self-titled album from Ted Nugent, again, not the debut. This is his first album on Epic. It's at 167 this week, up from 187. At 166 this week, the Baker Gurvitz Army. I know it's Ginger Baker from Cream. but and the Gurvitz brothers. It's about all I know. The album is called Elysian Encounter. 3 weeks in the chart. This week it's up from 176 to 166. C.W. Call, best known for the song Convoy. His album Black Bear Road is new this week at 165. Another reggae album, Toots and the Maytals. The album's called Funky Kingston. This week it's up 4 spots to 164. I'm assuming this is his debut solo album after the Raspberries, Eric Carmen. This week it's climbs from 174 to 163. LaBelle and their album Phoenix is at 162 this week. That is up 11 spots. Here's another name that I vaguely recognize, but I don't know the music. Brian Auger's Oblivion Express. The album's called Reinforcements. It is down from 115. It looks like that is where it peaked. Number 160 this week, Mott. So this is Mott the Hoople minus Ian Hunter, who had gone for a solo career. Their album Drive On is up 2 spots this week. I see a lot about this group. Honestly, I've heard some of the music and I'm not sure what the appeal was, other than, you didn't know what they were going to do next. Specifically, their lead singer, Jim Dandy, very much reminds me of what David Lee Roth ended up doing and his whole look and everything. But anyway, Black Oak, Arkansas. Southern rock band, I think, or more of a hard rock band, really don't know. I know Tommy Aldridge was a member at one time too. Their album X-Rated is up from 165 to 159 this week. And just to show you the variety in the chart, Johnny Mathis and his album Feelings is at 158. That's up 5. Irish blues rock guitarist Rory Gallagher debuts this week with his album Against the Grain, 157. Another name that I do not recognize is at 156, Willie Hutch, and the album's called Ode to My Lady. It's up 10. Number 155, I think we're talking blues here. Taj Mahal with Music Keeps Me Together. That's up 1 from the previous week. Another album that spent a lot of weeks in the chart and is nowhere close to being done yet. Is over 2 years old at this point. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. This week it drops from 60 to 154. At number 153, the second Bad Company album, Straight Shooter. It peaked at number 3 this week. It is holding at 153. Legendary bluesman B.B. King is at 152, down 12 with his album Lucille Talks Back. Lucille, of course, his guitar. Debuting this week at 151, it's another name I don't recognize, Bobby Humphrey. And the album's called Fancy Dancer, not to be confused with the early Rush song of the same name. Somebody who would be big in the 80s, he was sort of a cult artist leading up to that point, at least over here. Robert Palmer and his album Pressure Drop. It's up 8 this week to 150. The Eagles are at 149, up 10 this week with their album On the Border, which I believe was their fourth album. I think that was the 4th album. At number 148, it's another name I recognize, but I don't know any music. Country Joe and the Fish, and the album's called Paradise with an Ocean View. That album is up 4 spots this week. Number 147, I knew it would happen. I'd come across something I wasn't sure how to pronounce. The soundtrack to Listomania. I can only assume this is about Franz Liszt, the composer, because of the way it's spelled. Not sure. Number 146, the rock band Head East, and the album's called Flat as a Pancake. Most records are, hopefully. That's up 4 this week. Number 145, sort of a connection to Bad Company, the band Backstreet Crawler, which was Free guitarist Paul Kossoff's band after Free and before he died at a very young age. So the album The Band Plays On is up 10 this week to 145. Band, I've seen this name a lot, don't know the music. New Riders of the Purple Sage, and Oh, What a Mighty Time. It's up 3 to 144. At number 143, the Eagles and their album Desperado. The surprising thing about this album is that it only peaked at 41, and there were no top 40 hits from that album, including the title song. As well known as the song Desperado is, does not hit the top 40. At number 142, Eric Clapton, EC Was Here. I think it's a live album. Peaked at 20 this week. It's down from 83 to 142. Some yacht rock here. Number 141, America, and their album Hearts. As I've said before, a lot of their albums in the 70s all started with the letter H. This week it's down 136 to 141. At number 140, The Four Seasons and Who Loves You. That is new this week. Number 139, The Amazing Rhythm Aces, and the album is called Stacked Deck. This week it's drops from 120 to 139. They're best known for the song Third Rate Romance. Tony Orlando and Dawn, Greatest Hits. It peaked at 16 this week. Well, it's up from 148 to 138, so I guess it would peak at 16. He hadn't quite broken huge with Frampton Comes Alive. Peter Frampton's album that he just called Frampton is at 137 this week. It's up 12. This seems to be a live album from the title. John Denver, An Evening with John Denver. It's up 6 this week to 136. This guy had one of the smoothest voices ever, Bill Withers, and his album Making Music is up 11 spots this week. This is a country guy that had some crossover success, including the name of this album, Freddie Fender, Before the Next Teardrop Falls. That is holding this week at 134. Loggins and Messina with their album So Fine drops from 94 to 133. We're about, I think, 2 years away from Kenny Loggins going solo. I know the title as a movie. I did not know there was a group called The Crown Heights Affair. The album Dreaming a Dream is up 1 to 132. The Stylistics, You Are Beautiful, up 10 spots to 131 this week. At number 130, Bruce Springsteen and his second album, The Wild, The Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle is down from 70 to 130. Debut album from a very quirky band, The Tubes, self-titled debut. This week it's up 3 to 129. The title of this album, I'm not sure which came first, but I know that the title, Quiet Storm, is used for a genre of music, sort of like laid-back R&B music, late-night romance kind of thing. Smokey Robinson has an album called A Quiet Storm. This week it's up 3 to 128. Number 127, the Graham Edge Band with Kick Off Your Muddy Boots. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Graham Edge was a member of the Moody Blues. I could be wrong about that. This week, this album drops from 107 to 127. The R&B band, The Crusaders' album Chain Reaction is down from 110 to 126. This is an album that talked about on, did a UK chart, and it's got a kind of a disturbing cover. Roger Daltrey with Ride a Rock Horse. This week it's up from 129 to 125. At number 124, Edgar Winter Group with Rick Derringer, self-titled, up 4 this week. Number 123, Average White Band and Cut the Cake. That is up 14. At number 122, we've got the Blackbirds, best known for the song Walking in Rhythm. The album City Life is big jump, 171 up to 122. The next name is, I just know it's somehow a spin-off of Jefferson Airplane or something, Hot Tuna. And the album Yellow Fever, new this week at 121. Another high debut this week, 120, Richard Pryor, one of the biggest comedians of the day. I cannot repeat the title of this album. Number 119, wow, big drop this week. It peaked at 43, and that is exactly where it was the previous week. 43 down to 119. Took her a long time before she broke big. Bonnie Raitt and her album Home Plate. At number 118, Jim Croce, singer-songwriter, died very young, and probably, like it happens sometimes, became more popular in death than he was in life, even though he was pretty popular then too. His album, The Faces I've Been, is up 6 this week. Former Temptation, Eddie Kendricks, The Hitman, climbs 1 this week to 117. Donald Byrd, I think it might be jazz, Places and Spaces. This album climbs 10 spots to 116 this week. At 115, Cat Stevens' Greatest Hits, up 4. At number 14, now I do not know how to pronounce this guy's name, Leo Kottke. I know he's an acoustic guitarist, but his album Chewing Pine is holding 114 this week. This must be the self-titled debut from the Manhattan Transfer. It's at 113 this week, up from 135. Helen Reddy, her album No Way to Treat a Lady, is holding at 112. Quicksilver Messenger Service, again, a name I see a lot, especially looking for 8 tracks. I'm not familiar with the music. I know that David Freeberg was in this group, then he went on to Jefferson Starship. The album Solid Silver is up 10 this week. Starting to get a little bit more recognizable here. At number 110, down from 102, David Bowie with Young Americans. That album peaked at number 9. The song was a big hit in the 70s, and it got a new life when it was used in Wayne's World back in 92. At number 108, new, the OJs with Family Reunion. At 107, now this album only peaked at number 30. None of this band's albums certified, at least not in North America. Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. This week it climbs up from 109 to 107. Number 106, 40 weeks in the chart, Melissa by Melissa Manchester. This week, this album drops from 84 to 106. At number 105, we've got Ron Banks and the Dramatics. Their album Drama 5 is up 6 spots. Graham Central Station, I think this was Larry Graham from Sly and the Family Stone. Ain't No Doubt About It, drops from 90 to 104. Very famous singer-songwriter, activist. I think his music's been sampled a lot. Gil Scott-Heron. His album From South Africa to South Carolina climbs 1 to 103. John Denver with Back Home Again. He's up 3 to 102 this week. High debut with The Temptations and House Party, new at 101. So as we enter the top 100, we've got Barry Manilow. It says Barry Manilow 1. I don't know if his first album actually had a 1 in it or that was retroactive. I don't know. This week it's down from 75 to 100. Passed away earlier this year, Chuck Mangione, his album Belavia. That's just a guess on the pronunciation. That's new at 99. Aretha Franklin, her album called You is up 10 this week to 98. At 97, they were just beginning to take over the charts. The Bee Gees and their album Main Course. When I say just beginning, I mean in North America. One of many posthumous Jimi Hendrix albums, Midnight Lightning, is new this week at 96. We've got another Richard Pryor album at number 95 called Is It Something I Said? Peaked at 12. This week it's down from 39 to 95. Another guy from the Temptations, David Ruffin, his album Who I Am. Big jump, 157 up to 94. Tony Orlando and Dawn are holding at 93 this week with Skybird. BT Express and the album Non-Stop is also holding this week. I think that we've got another jazz artist here, Stanley Turrentine or Turrentine. Have You Ever Seen the Rain? I'm assuming he covers that song on here. 103 up to 91 this week. And I think probably the second Canadian we've seen in this chart. We're on the US chart, of course. Neil Young and Crazy Horse with the album Zuma. That's new this week. This has to be a disco group because of the album title, but I'm not familiar. The People's Choice and Boogie Down USA. This week it's up 6 to 89. The Reverend Al Green with Al Green Is Love drops from 47 to 88 this week. Charlie Daniels Band and Knight Rider is holding at 87. The debut album from Bruce Springsteen, Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey, is up 10 from 96 to 86, climbing back up. Billy Cobham, A Funky Side of Things, is up from 99 to 85. That's another name I recognize, but I don't know the music. At number 84, Todd Rundgren's Utopia, another live, must be a live album, 101 up to 84. At number 83, we've got The Miracles with City of Angels, 117 climbing up to 83. Canadian number 3 on this chart, Gord's Gold by the late Gordon Lightfoot. Big jump, 186 all the way up to 82. At 81, we've got the Allman Brothers Band with Win, Lose, or Draw. That one drops from 52 to 81. Jefferson Starship's album Dragonfly is up from 98 to 80 this week. Number 79, we got some more comedy here. An Evening with Wally Londo featuring Bill Slazzo. by George Carlin. That is up 10 this week. John Denver, third time I think we've seen him. His greatest hits is up 10 to 78. Some R&B with Ronnie Laws and Pressure Sensitive. It's up 1 this week. Huge album. I mean, it's greatest hits album, but it's a huge greatest hits album. Elton John's greatest hits, the first volume. This week it drops from 48 to 76. The Ozark Mountain Daredevils, the Car Over the Lake album. I don't think that album actually had a title. That's just what's depicted on the album cover. That's up 86 to 75. Lonnie Liston Smith, Visions of a New World, 76 up to 74. Not really familiar. Earth, Wind, and Fire with the soundtrack to That's the Way of the World holds this week at 73. Self-titled debut from the band Ambrosia, which a lot of people associate with yacht rock. My understanding is they were much proggier when they first started. This week, this album is holding at 72. Frank Zappa is up 10 spots this week with his album Bongo Fury. The late Quincy Jones album Mellow Madness drops from 56 to 70 this week. She gave us I Will Survive. Gloria Gaynor, I don't think it's on this album, but I could be wrong. With her album Experience, Gloria Gaynor jumps from 85 to 69. Here's another name I've seen a lot, and I don't know any music. Ramsey Lewis, album's called Don't It Feel Good, drops from 46 to 68. Famous Bay Area horn section, Tower of Power, their album In the Slot is holding at 67. Neil Sedaka with Sedaka's Back is holding at 66 this week. Jethro Tull is at 65, down from 40, with their album Minstrel in the Gallery that peaked at number 7. Donna Summer's album Love to Love You Baby jumps from 77 up to 64. At number 63, we've got, I know that he's a well-known musician. I'm really not familiar with him. I think it's like Americana or rootsy kind of music. I don't think it's what you call blues or country rock, but I really don't know. Leon Russell with Will o' the Wisp, down from 32 to 63. Holding this week at 62, peaked at 10, ZZ Top's fourth album, Fandango. It's half live, half studio tracks. There's enough new on it I call it an album. At number 61, Simon & Garfunkel's Greatest Hits, 108 weeks in the chart. This week it's back up, 71 up to 61. At number 60, The Ritchie Family and Brazil, not familiar, down from 53. Okay, so I think we have our first Beatle. George Harrison, Extra Texture, read all about it. It drops from 12 to 59 this week, peaked at number 8. Elton John, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboys, holding at 58 this week. Foghat, Fool for the City, probably their biggest album. This one had Slow Ride and the title song. That's up from 64 to 57. Sly and the Family Stone, their album High on You, is up from 68 to 56. Holding at 55 this week, it peaked at 11. The third Aerosmith album, Toys in the Attic. Band that one of those bands I read about that everybody's like, oh, they should have been big. Little Feat. Their album, the last record album, jumps from 97 to 54 this week. The soundtrack to Mahogany is up from 79 to 53. I think this was Diana Ross. This is interesting. Judas Priest fans will recognize this title and the song. Joan Baez, Diamonds and Rust. Same song. Drops from 41 to 52 this week. Freddie Fender, another album from him, up 10 with Are You Ready for Freddie? Number 50, War with Why Can't We Be Friends? That's down from 19 to 50 this week, peaked at number 8. Dan Fogelberg with Captured Angel drops from 23 to 49. Big album from Rod Stewart, peaked at 9 this week. His album Atlantic Crossing drops from 17 to 48. Here's our second Beatle. Paul McCartney and Wings, Venus and Mars. This week, the album Venus and Mars jumps from 59 to 47. Self-titled album from the Bay City Rollers jumps from 57 up to 46. Linda Ronstadt, Heart Like a Wheel, is holding at 45 this week. The Captain and Tennille with Love Will Keep Us Together is up 10, 54 up to 44. It's a compilation in North America, different songs than it appeared in their native UK. But people didn't originally know that, of course. Sweet with Desolation Boulevard, that's up from 50 to 43. John Denver, once again. You can tell who the big stars were when they got a lot of multiple albums on the chart. John Denver's Rocky Mountain Christmas is up from 74 to 42. 41, Olivia Newton-John with Clearly Love, that drops from 13 to 41. At number 40, Commodores with their album Moving On is up 11. Now this is the album that Van Halen fans, if you've seen the album, this is the one with the train on it that looks very much like the artwork they used for what became A Different Kind of Truth. Stanley Clarke at number 39 with Journey to Love, that's up 5. Barry Manilow, another big star from the 70s, Trying to Get the Feeling, that's up 11. More Feelings at 37. Morris Albert and the album Feelings is up 5. At number 36, up from 65, pretty big jump, the Staple Singers and the soundtrack to Let's Do It Again. At number 35, Janice Ian, Between the Lines, that's up 2. Some Southern Rock with the Marshall Tucker Band and Searching for a Rainbow, that's up from 36 to 34. Barry White's Greatest Hits Volume 1 is jumping from 63 up to 33. The Spinners with Pick of the Litter drops from 14 to 32. Glenn Campbell, Rhinestone Cowboy, up 2 from 33 to 31. Gladys Knight and the Pips' second anniversary is up from 38 to 30. The Isley Brothers with The Heat Is On, up 6 to 29. Willie Nelson, Red-Headed Stranger, up 6 to 28. Dave Mason with his album Split Coconut is holding at 27. Electric Light Orchestra, Face the Music is up from 30 to 26. Neil Sedaka in his album The Hungry Years is up 4 to 25. Self-titled album from Casey and the Sunshine Band is up from 28 to 24. Seals and Crofts, Greatest Hits, up 31 to 23. Self-titled Fleetwood Mac album is up from 25 to 22 this week with Peak at 9. Herbie Hancock and Manchild, up from 24 to 21. America and History, their greatest hits, that is a huge jump. 116 all the way up to 20 this week. Barbra Streisand with Lazy Afternoon is up from 26 to 19. Natalie Cole, Inseparable, up 2 to 18. At number 17, Grover Washington Jr., Feels So Good, that's up from 22. Our third Beatle, I don't know if we got any Ringo in this chart or not. John Lennon, Shaved Fish, up 5 to 16. The Ohio Players and their album Honey is up 3 to 15. Huge debut. It wasn't a common thing for albums to debut way up high in the charts back then. So for Chicago's Greatest Hits to debut up at 14 speaks to how big they were at that time. This is the one where it looks like they're cleaning a window and they're like falling off. Technically, it's Chicago. Let me think about that. IX would be 9. Roman numerals are not my specialty. At number 13, Silver Convention with Save Me, that's up 3. At number 12, up from 15, Kiss Alive, their breakthrough. The Eagles are at number 11 with One of These Nights. It's holding this week. Linda Ronstadt, Prisoner in Disguise, drops from 4 to 10. Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run, is at 9 this week, down from 8. The Who by Numbers is up 1 this week. Art Garfunkel is at number 7 with Breakaway, that's up 3 spots. No Stills, just Crosby and Nash. David Crosby, Graham Nash, Wind on the Water, up 1 to number 6 this week. Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here is holding at 5. Of course, it was a number 1 album. Paul Simon's at number 4, up 2 with Still Crazy After All These Years. At number 3, it's Elton John. The previous week's number 1 album, Rock of the Westies, this week is number 3. John Denver again with Wind Song, it's holding at 2. And the number 1 album this week, 50 years ago, on the Billboard chart, was Jefferson Starship's Red Octopus. How many of those albums are in your collection? I'd like to know below. Comment on your thoughts. And if there's any of these artists that you know about that I have no knowledge of, fill me in. Thanks for watching. Link to order my books is below. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And we'll see you later. We'll be doing more chart episodes for sure. Thanks for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions.